You know, the greatest strategic failure in marketing is believing that a large purchase requires some huge, high-pressure sales pitch. But what if that entire way of thinking is just completely backward? What if you could actually engineer a predictable journey for the human eye, one that intentionally guides a viewer from their very first glance straight to the final sale? Now, this isn't about just making things look pretty. It's about the architecture of attention. And today, we are going to unpack the science of controlling exactly where people look. It's a powerful concept, and it's going to fundamentally change how you think about visual persuasion.
Yeah, this belief, it sabotages so many marketing efforts because it assumes the customer is an opponent you have to conquer. But the alternative is so much more powerful. What if the sales battle is won not with a shout, but with a whisper? What if you could win it at the lowest possible friction point? A single small yes that psychologically compels the buyer toward that final purchase, making it feel less like a decision and more like, well, an inevitability. This is the core paradox we're going to dismantle today.
So, here's our roadmap. We're going to start by unpacking that great sales paradox. Then, we'll dive into the chaos of the random gaze to see why most visuals just don't work. After that, we'll reveal the solution, the 3 tiers of dominance. We'll get into the psychology of a gaze, turn all this theory into practice with a mastery framework, and finally, show you how to literally draw the conversion path right onto any design.
Okay, so let's tackle that paradox head-on. We all tend to assume that to win a big sale, you need this huge persuasive effort, right? A full-court press of features and benefits. But that assumption totally blinds us to a much more powerful, internal human force. See, the real lever isn't about pushing a message onto someone. It's about tapping into a fundamental need that already exists inside them.
In that force, it's called commitment bias. It's our deep-seated psychological need to be consistent. Once we make a choice, even a tiny, insignificant one, our brain automatically starts to justify it. It works to align all our future actions with that first little decision. Think about a free trial for a streaming service. The initial yes is tiny, right? It's low risk. But once you've used it, once you've integrated it into your routine, you start to see yourself as a user. So when that trial ends, continuing the subscription doesn't feel like a brand new decision. It just feels like you're staying consistent with the choice you already made. You've become the person who said yes. And just like that, the big purchase feels like the natural conclusion to a journey you already started.
Now, understanding that psychological trigger is one thing, but actually activating it, that's a whole other ballgame. And this is precisely where most visual marketing and advertising just completely falls apart. We're living in what you could call a visual noise crisis. I mean, our screens are just flooded with information, headlines, images, buttons, all screaming for our attention. It creates chaos, not clarity. And our brains, really as an act of self-preservation, have just learned to ignore most of it. And this chaos leads directly to wasted attention, and you guessed it, low conversions.
Which leads to this really frustrating question for marketers, right? Why do these visually busy ads, the ones with tons of likes, shares, and comments, so often fail to actually convert? Why doesn't all that attention translate into action? Well, the answer is simple. Not all attention is created equal. Random attention is not the same as guided focus. Engagement without any direction is just noise. And this slide just lays it out perfectly. On the left, you've got the random gaze. When a viewer's eye is just jumping all over an ad without any direction, it creates a really high cognitive load. Think of it like a mental tax. The brain has to work way too hard to figure out what's important, what to look at first, and how all the pieces connect. This leads to wasted attention, precious energy spent on stuff that doesn't matter. The brain processes information randomly, and it completely misses the sales argument you were trying to make. The result? Low conversion. But on the right, you have an engineered path. This is designed for low cognitive load. It provides guided focus, creating a path of least visual resistance that the brain naturally wants to follow. This allows for a sequential argument, where your message is processed in the exact order you intended. And the result of that control? Predictably, high conversion. So how do we actually build that engineered path? The solution is a structural framework called the visual dominance hierarchy. Now, this isn't about aesthetics or what you subjectively think looks good. This is about architecture. It's a system for assigning a rank to every single element in your creative to enforce a predictable viewing sequence. It guarantees that the viewer follows the optimal path, from the main idea to the proof, and then to the final action.
The core mechanism we use to build this hierarchy is something called visual weight. Put simply, visual weight is the measure of an element's ability to grab attention. It's like the force of gravity for the human eye. And the best part is, it's not subjective. We can precisely control it with 3 simple levers: size, making something bigger than everything else; contrast, making it stand out from its background; and color, using a hue that just pops. By intentionally manipulating these 3 things, we can make certain elements heavier and others lighter, dictating exactly where the eye will land first, second, and last.
The hierarchy begins with dominance 1, or D1, the anchor. This has to be the single largest, highest contrast element. There can only be one. Its job is to capture the viewer's initial gaze within milliseconds and deliver the big idea, whether that's a powerful headline or a really compelling image. It is the undeniable start of the journey. A super common mistake is having a weak anchor, or even worse, 2 competing anchors. If you fail to establish a single clear starting point, the journey never even begins.
Okay, so once the anchor has their attention, we guide them to the next logical step: dominance 2, or D2, the proof. These are the secondary elements that provide justification for your big idea. Things like testimonials, data, key features, but crucially, the path from D1 to D2 cannot be left to chance. It has to be explicitly bridged using what we call directional cues. These are the unsung heroes of design. Things like the gaze of a person in a photo looking directly at the proof, or subtle lines and shapes that guide the eye and keep that attention flowing.
Finally, after you've presented the idea and the proof, you guide the viewer to the non-negotiable endpoint of the journey. This is dominance 3, or D3, the conversion focus. This is your call to action button, your buy now link. This element has to be treated as the final destination. Its power comes from being enforced by a unique color, one that doesn't appear anywhere else in the design, and by being physically isolated from other elements. It has to be the most distinct and unmissable object on the screen. It's the finish line.
What's so fascinating is why this 3-tier system is so incredibly effective. It's not just some good design theory, it's literally rooted in the fundamental wiring of the human brain. We've seen the what, so now let's get into the why. The system works because it capitalizes on our deep-seated instinct to follow visual structure and prioritize anything with high contrast. Let's take a look at the neuroscience.
The primary psychological mechanism at play here is called the isolation effect. This principle states that our brains are literally hardwired to notice and remember things that are different from their surroundings. This goes all the way back to our evolutionary survival. Our ancestors needed to instantly spot the one ripe fruit in a tree of green ones, or the one predator moving in the tall grass. Our brains evolved to be pattern-breaking detectors. An object that is unique and isolated from everything else gets processed more deeply and is way more memorable. This is the secret weapon that guarantees your D3 element, your call to action, gets noticed every time.
Just look at this slide. Where does your eye go? Right to the highlighted text, doesn't it? You didn't have to decide to look there. Your brain's natural prioritization system did all the work for you, drawn to the one element that breaks the pattern. This isn't some trick. It's just a feature of our neurology. When you apply this same principle to your call to action, you're leveraging this innate process to ensure it becomes the undeniable focal point.
So the crucial takeaway here is that this entire system is designed to reduce cognitive load. It makes things easy for the brain. By creating a clear hierarchy, you eliminate the viewer's need to search for information, and you create a path of least resistance. This leverages basic principles of how our brains group things, like we naturally assume things placed close together are related, that's proximity. Or our eyes will naturally follow a line from one element to another, that's continuation. By controlling these simple cues, you allow for the sequential processing of your sales argument, ensuring the message gets received exactly as you intended without causing any mental fatigue.
So we've got the theory and we've got the psychology. And theory is powerful, but application is where results actually happen. So let's translate these insights into a practical, repeatable playbook. This is the Mastery Framework, an actionable set of rules you can apply to any visual asset to engineer its effectiveness.
We call this framework the 3-tier mandate, and it has 3 non-negotiable steps. First, you have to rank all elements. Do a mandatory audit of your creative. Every single headline, image, and button must be assigned a rank: D1, D2, or D3. Nothing gets left unranked. Second, you have to engineer the directional bridges. Audit the visual space between your D1, D2, and D3 elements. Are you intentionally guiding the eye with those subtle cues? You can't just assume the viewer will connect the dots themselves. You have to build the bridge for them. And finally, test the isolation effect. Look at your call to action. Does it have maximum contrast? Does it use a unique color that's not found anywhere else? It has to stand out completely to be that final, unavoidable destination.
All right, so when we bring all these concepts together, the psychology of commitment, the chaos of the random gaze, and the order of the dominance hierarchy, we arrive at the final essential insight of this entire system. Let's land the plane.
The core insight is this simple. Random attention yields random results. If you leave the viewer's gaze to chance, you are leaving your conversions to chance. It's like handing someone a pile of ingredients and just hoping they create a gourmet meal. But systematic visual prioritization, that is the single highest leverage move you can make. It's like giving them a clear, step-by-step recipe. By engineering a visual pathway, you transform passive viewing into active, sequential processing. It's the cold logic of visual structure applied to our very human need for order.
Ultimately, the best marketing doesn't just push people through a funnel, it pulls them toward value. And it does this because it makes the journey effortless. It literally draws the final conversion path right onto the screen for them to follow. The question then isn't whether your viewers will follow a path, it's whether you're the one who designed it.